Welcome to the Extraordinary Podcast, where we identify God's uncommon work in common life. Recognizing God's work requires intentionality, but articulating it motivates and inspires. Don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. In today's episode, I have a conversation with VanBuskirk as he shares his journey through figuring out his passions, but also a traumatic experience that he had over the summer, but the perspective that God has given him to persevere, to hope, and to thrive with whatever God puts before us. So let's get into the conversation with JP. JP, thank you for being a guest here on the podcast. We appreciate you taking time to share your story with us. As we begin, you have spent some time in the rodeo when you were younger. Can you share about what you did when you were in the rodeo?
Mm-hmm. So I started out running barrels, and then I met a lady that said she was the one that kind of helped me run barrels, and her husband roped calves. So he said, running barrels is for girls. You don't want to rope barrels anymore, so you want to rope calves. And I said, okay. So then I started roping calves, and I got into calf roping, and then that led me into steer wrestling, and which opened up avenues of rodeo everywhere. I went to college for rodeo in different colleges, and did a little of the amateur stuff around here. But
now, when you say you went to college for rodeo, was that to participate in rodeo or study it?
No, so just like they have college basketball teams, the baseball teams, they have college rodeo teams.
Okay.
So they would give you scholarships to go rodeo for that college.
Okay, I'm sure that was an interesting experience, and I believe you met your wife through the rodeo, and so obviously has a special place in your heart with that. Now the agricultural side of things is something that you're pretty passionate about. How did you get involved with that stuff?
Another mentor, his name was Willie. When I got a horse, I had to have hay, so we lacked funds to be able to do everything we wanted to do, so I would go and help this older gentleman bale hay during the summers, and then I would get my hay for free or cheaper. So through him, developed a sense for and a fond for agriculture. And then the farther I would go with that, the deeper and the more I'd love it.
And you've been involved with organizations like FFA. I believe you helped start that at the Danville School District, and just expanding and giving students opportunities to explore those types of things. But you're also involved in carpentry on some level. Was that part of the same world, or was that a different way that you got involved with that?
The teaching, I don't know if it came from my parents, but the industrial tech part of it came from another gentleman that his son-in-law was helping me learn how to rope, and different guy from who I learned from before. But he came out one day and he said, JP, he says, you have all these different skills, why don't you become an industrial tech teacher? He said, and I explained what it was, and I looked back at my industrial tech days, and I thought, I could probably make it a little better than how I had it when I was a kid, so why not? Let's give it a try. I think I was a business major to start with, and after probably 20 some years of college, I don't know, 15, it took a while, but finally decided industrial tech was the route I took.
And through that, you were investing in students. I think you've talked to me before about your passion in students and leadership development, which is part of what FFA is really about. Yeah. And but one of the things that you do is you have a passion. Part of what you use your passions for is helping others. One of the things that comes to mind that's kind of a more of a large scale is you helped a friend with their home situation. Is there anything you can share with us about what that was and what inspired you and Amanda to do that?
Yep, they're our neighbors, and they're really good people. You run across those people that have an excellent heart but just don't have the funds to do what they want to do. And we were in a position where we could help. So he was put in a wheelchair, maybe not even a year ago, and needed a handicap accessible house, and they were living in an old farmhouse. So we started plans, probably a year ago, to get him into a handicap accessible house. And the only way to do that was for us to build it. So with my knowledge and skills and everybody around us that has knowledge and skills that was able to help us, we were able to get. They're not in it yet, but they're pretty close. I mean, we're doing electrical now and installation. So he did pass away over Christmas, so we didn't get him in before that. But at least you'll be able to enjoy it here in about a month or so.
And you help them in many other ways, but helping others and using your passions and your skills for others is something that you and Amanda do on a regular basis. And with that, every year you have a hog roast, and it's impressive with the number of people that show up. And I say that because they don't show up just because there's free food. Right?
Yeah.
They show up because you have built relationships that you've invested in them or helped them, or they've helped, so whatever that may be. How long have you been having the hog roast? Do you remember?
I'd say 7 years, 8 years, something like that.
And it's there's quite a community that you have built. Is it just by showing people you care, or do you have any insights for that?
I don't know. It's just like you said. It's relationships that we've built over time, and they're all aspects. I mean, it's rodeo world, it's education world, it's people that we've just met, neighbors. It's the church family. They're different. They're all different. So it's neat to see them all come together.
Now, I will say, do you have the log burning every year, or was that just a one-time thing?
So no, it's every year now. Pastor Vance got us into that, and ever since, I think maybe 3 years going now, that it's the hollow log with looks like a candle. Yeah,
super cool to say the least, and a very good conversation piece.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Now we've talked about some of the passions that you have and that you pursued. You started out as a business major in college, though.
Yeah.
So I point that out. The fact of sometimes we just need to try, and it may not get us we may not continue down that path, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, God leads you in the direction He wants to go, and that's what we end our prayer with at night is, lead us in the direction You want us to go. And sometimes it's hard knocks, and sometimes it's an easy path to follow. That hey, just a nudge up here, go this way.
So just follow your passions, explore, and it took you longer than the normal to get through your educational for schooling, but as I said, God was directing you, and God provided for you. But along the road, I want to make sure we highlight the depth of the relationships. That it's not just a passing hi. It's not just Facebook friends or something like that. It's something deeper than that. And through Jesus, Jesus has called us to use our gifts and passions to invest in others and impact them. Now, one of the things that if people know you, they know that you had an experience recently that was hard. Can you share that experience as much as you're comfortable?
Yeah. So last June, about the middle of June, I was out round baling hay like I usually do, and the baler malfunctioned, so I ran back to fix it, and I had just throttled the tractor down, but I left the PTO on, which is what runs the baler, and the baler had quit running because I had the back opened up, which usually stops the belts, and the belts were stopped, but I went back there and grabbed some hay out that clogged, and this was a hurry up and jump back in the tractor type deal, and as soon as I grabbed the last little tuft of hay that was stuck in there, them belts started spinning again, which grabbed my finger and pulled me up in there. And the initial first probably 20 minutes of it was, this isn't happening. I can get out of this. This is no big deal. I'm just gonna yank my hand out and I'll be fine. After that 20 minutes of fighting and trying to figure out how to get freed, came the realization that no, this is happening, and nobody's gonna come save you, and you need to figure out how to deal with this because it's done. And so then I started praying and thinking to my family, and how am I gonna A, stay alive if this is gonna kill me, or B, how much arm can I save, and how do I do that? And I was in and out of praying a lot. I tried hollering, and there was no way nobody's gonna come get me. I was just losing my voice. So it was thinking of my kids and my wife, and asking God to get me out of it.
This was in June, as you said.
Yeah.
It was not a cold day.
And that was about 103.
And so it was a very warm day. And you were working with someone, but they were in a different field.
So Tierney and I, my daughter, were going to head down to Kentucky, and we were going to leave at noon. This was about 10:15 that it happened. And at noon, Tierney thought there was something wrong because Dad should have been home by now. At 2:15, a friend of mine came out to the field because he was going to move the hay off the field so they could fertilize, and got out of his truck and said, "How are things going?" But he didn't realize what was going on. And as soon as I said, "Can you shut the tractor off?" he figured it out, and so he ran the tractor and shut off the tractor, and then was able to call EMS to get me out. So it was about 4 hours. Yeah.
And now you were stuck. Your arm was stuck, but it's not like you were just the machine was trying to pull your arm in.
Yeah, it was. I had it on low idle, so the belts were going slow. But I don't know. Every probably 30 seconds, I'd feel like a zipper come across where them belts connect and cut across the bone. So it was endurable for me, as long as I kept my arm out of it at that point, because I'd already had my hand. And I didn't let any new tissue go. But as soon as I let new tissue go, it would hurt a lot more. And I rotated positions from just pulling on my arm, and then my arm would get tired, and then I'd grab my hand and I'd pull on my arm with my hand, and then I'd lay on my arm and just rotate through those three and prayed and have somebody, send somebody to find me.
And one of the things, so you thought of your family, you thought of, pray to Jesus, and just thought of all those things. What happened next?
The EMS, the cop came, put a tourniquet on me right away, and so I asked for water then, because I knew pretty soon they're going to shut me off to water, because they're not going to have water from going to surgery. Medforce couldn't land because there was so much hay in the field still, and so Amanda came shortly after the fire trucks got there, and we were trying to tell them how to get me out, and they wanted to put the jaws of life in between these two rollers, and I said, "No, there's no reason to ruin this baler. Let me tell you how to get me out of here." And they, so my friend finally showed them how to get me out, and I think 20 minutes they had me in the ambulance, and I was headed to the hospital to get me up to Iowa City with the life flight. So they got me into surgery, took the hand off, went in for a second surgery to kind of take a little bit more back to get more skin to put around the end of it. And then I got to go in for a third surgery here in probably 6 weeks to try and stop the pain that goes on all the time in my hand.
So was Amanda home when this was happening?
Yeah, she had worked the night before, so she was sleeping.
And in case people don't know, Amanda is a nurse working the ICU, so, yeah. But I'm sure she wasn't prepared for this.
No, this level of trauma she'd been introduced to before, but when it's your own family member.
Yes. Yeah, so it's yeah, you can't be prepared for that.
It was wonderful having her, though, because she, every step of the way, I couldn't have, without her as a nurse, I would have been lost. All the bandages changing all the time, and the knowledge of the inner workings of the hospital, and Joni helped us with insurance. She eased a lot of pains.
Now, just for the record, it was your right hand, and you are right-handed.
Yes.
And
the doctor says now you're left-handed.
Yes, yeah. And so I point that out because there are little things that people might not realize, like brushing your teeth. Right?
It's all over in the beginning.
Yeah. Are there other things that people might not realize that you had to go through? Does that make sense?
I just tell them if they want the experience, just use your left hand someday. Use your off hand and try and put your pants on, or put your socks on, or put your belt in, or shave your face, or if you're a male, or there's just try it left-handed and see what happens. It's life-changing. Amazing.
And I use the brushing the teeth as a fairly trivial example.
Yeah.
But I think what you said makes sense. There's so many things that we take for granted that using or strong hearing or having dexterity with both hands is something that we take for granted, and so this is we're recording this in January. It's going to be published probably in February. So we're 8 months or so removed, which is you have a prosthetic, and can you share a little bit about that journey with us?
So happened in June. They said I wouldn't get a prosthetic till May, but because I have an amazing wife that knows how to do all the surgery stuff, and I think maybe the willpower, the doctor said, he says most people want to sit in their rooms and cry and be upset. He says, but you were loading a trailer full of hay the day after you got out of the hospital. He says, you can have a prosthetic in October because you've pushed yourself to get to that point that you're there. And so October came, I started getting fitted. By November, I think it was the middle of December by the time I got a prosthetic. And it's an electric one, so I have a hand that does different functions, and then I have this grabber that just opens and closes, but it's tied in onto my arm. It fits in a socket. You can see it's for carbon fiber that it fits into. So it's all the new, latest and greatest technology, but it's nothing close to what a hand would be. I mean, it's 10% of what a hand would be.
And there are, you do a lot of farm stuff. You have cattle, you have hay. There's just a lot of things that you do. It's not, you don't have just a desk job or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with a desk job, but you're still able to drive your uniloader and your tractors and those types of things.
Yeah, I haven't found anything really that I haven't been able to do yet. We tried an excavator the other day and it worked fine. So it's zippers are hard, but we can get that most of the time. But yeah, as far as agricultural stuff, I'll never rope right-handed again. Where I've tried to start left-handed now, but it's going to be challenging with just some different things that are a hindrance. But yeah, a lot of things I can still do. A little slower, but I can still do.
I remember the first time I saw you work your uniloader, and then you let me try it.
Yeah.
And as I was seeing how skilled you are at that, I think I equated it with your skill is greater than mine to the same extent that my skill was greater than my 4-year-old at the time.
Yeah.
And so you just you know your way around that type of equipment, and it's impressive to see you work. So
that was another gentleman, an older gentleman that I had got to be friends with that had helped me in that the construction end of it.
So someone who experiences this type of trauma, as the doctor indicated, kind of can get into whether it's depression or kind of seclude themselves. You didn't do that.
No, the day after I got out of surgery, I was already looking for a prosthetic. I mean,
So what gave you hope, I guess?
God's not going to give you anything you can't handle. I don't know why this happened yet, and I'm not saying God's punishing me, because I don't think He does that. But it's for a reason, and I'll know later on in my life why. I mean, it's not to be something that I should be upset about the rest of my life, or even to give it a day of being upset. I mean, yes, I'm not going to say I'm not upset about my hand being gone. There are times where I'm like, gosh darn it, I wish I would have had a hand, but I move past it, and you have to.
Yeah. And you're not in the rodeo anymore, but you still, it'd be nice to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I mean, I still ride. We were riding, I think, a month after I got out of surgery. It's a little interesting, a little more squeezing with my legs, but it can be done.
Yeah. And so I wanted to bring that up just because you kind of subtly alluded to the doctor saying because of your mindset, because of how you're working, it sped up your recovery.
Yeah.
And so there's a mental side to recovery as well as physical, and they can be tied together in many ways. So thank you for sharing that and sharing your story. And like I said, you don't necessarily wish it happened, but I just think it's powerful when you say, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. So thank you for just sharing and your openness with this. But as you think about your future, what's your outlook? You said you can do most things still, and you can accomplish most things. So for the most part, are you gonna? Obviously, things change, but you plan the plans are the same as they were before?
No, I've slowed down, I think, a little bit, and I'll probably slow down a little more. We're in a transition right now with my wife and I seeing if she's going to go to school somewhere else or if we're going to stick around here. So we're kind of waiting to see what happens there. So when it happened, I had already had a job to move in Fort Worth. She was going to go and try and get into school down there. So this stopped us from going there. And so we're not pursuing that avenue as hard as we were, but we're still seeing if we're meant to go or if we're meant to stay. So right now I'm kind of up in the air. I'm currently working as a weld educator at a factory in here in Burlington, but I don't know if I don't know if we'll go back to education. I kind of miss the kids. They have that positive vibe about them. They keep you young, but it's nice seeing that moment where they have that aha and learn. But the older generation has it also. They just don't have that vibe that those kids put off.
So the job in Fort Worth or any job, are you looking to stay in the industrial or agricultural areas?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a lot of skill sets, a lot of time invested in that.
Yeah.
Now as you're thinking, there are people that have or will go through difficult times, whether it's physical trauma or emotional trauma or whatever that may be. Do you have any words of encouragement or even challenge for people in that?
It's not worth it. It's not worth the time that you give it to bask in that. It's not going to help you at all. So why spend the time on it? There's no positive you're going to get out of sitting in bed moping. I'm sorry, but it's not going to help you at all. The quicker you can get past it, the quicker you can be enjoying your family, enjoying the things you want to do again. I know things are probably tough for others, but this was really tough, and I chose to go the positive route. It's a lot harder to go the positive route, but I think it's well worth it in the long run.
Well, and you're sitting in a place of credibility.
Yeah.
So you experienced something extremely difficult, to say the least, and you didn't allow it to consume you in negative ways.
Yeah.
And regardless of what other people go through, it's our choice how we react to what comes our way.
Yeah.
So is there, as we conclude, is there anything that we missed or anything else you wanted to share today?
No.
I just like to make sure I leave it open-ended in case people have something that comes to mind or something that I missed. But we appreciate you taking time to share your story and to give us insights into just how we can overcome our situations. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for being on this podcast. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Be on the lookout for how God does uncommon work in common life. And please subscribe to never miss an episode.